that would be repeated. These are the line items. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Richmond.
Mr. Chair, I should tell the Minister that although Nova Scotia is almost just under 1 million population, it is still a small place because the person who greeted her for vaccination was my next door neighbor growing up. So I heard the story before that, and the version I heard was that she also advised you that it was a blackberry-free zone for you to go in to get your immunization. So just when we think, after being elected 12 years in this House, both you and I, that people know who we are and recognize us, it certainly brings us back to reality that unfortunately many still don't know what it is that we are doing here. But happy to hear that the Minister did stand in line with all other Nova Scotians to get her vaccination, and I did have a good laugh when the story was shared with me just before Christmas. I'm looking here, Minister, at Trampoline Creative Incorporated, which has a line item of $302,000. I'm wondering, what did we get from Trampoline Creative for $300,000?
The Honourable Minister of Health Promotion and Protection.
Titans gymnastics and trampoline. Can you? I'm wondering if the honourable member can tell me what page he's on in the supplements, because I have volume 3 of the supplements, but I can't find it on the page.
The Honourable Member for Richmond.
I'm at page 149. Which is the other of the supplementary information, I think, if that helps the Minister find that. That's my question. Oh.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, we're checking right now to get information, more detailed information, but a preliminary response is that they're a social marketing company. So some of the social marketing campaigns that we do in the department, there are a variety of them. That's what that line item would have been for, and I will get you more details in a few minutes as soon as we can.
The Honourable Member for Richmond.
My first curiosity when I saw it was, did we buy a bunch of trampolines for the province? So that was my first assumption. But I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'd just be curious if we're in the business of buying trampolines. But for $300,000, certainly I'd appreciate if the Minister could give a breakdown. And that leads me to my next one, which is on page 148. Extreme Communications Limited is there for $479,000, almost $500,000. Went to that one company, which I know they don't sell trampolines, it's obvious, but I know they do different marketing in that, but for $480,000, could the Minister provide a breakdown, and if she doesn't have that with her today, if she could commit to providing me with that?
The Honourable Minister of Health Promotion and Protection.
Thank you very much, and I will certainly undertake to make that information known to the honourable member. I'll get a breakdown on it. Extreme Communications obviously are a communications company, and again they do social marketing for us. I think they did actually some of the H1N1 communications campaign, but I don't know that for sure. Just to elaborate a wee bit more on the social marketing aspect, HPP, we do a fair amount of social marketing. And when we say social marketing, we do a fair amount of advertising. Most people would recognize it as advertising. It's kind of a fancy word for advertising. And some of the advertisements that people will relate to HPP are some of the anti-smoking advertising that's gone on over a period of time. The breastfeeding campaigns that you will have seen more recently. We're currently running the fresh, frozen, and canned eat vegetables and fruits social marketing campaign, the Yellow Flag campaign. So there are quite a few, we've had quite a few advertising campaigns hoping to, you know, get people thinking in a different way about health and wellness and some of the choices that we make. When we hire these social marketing companies, as I understand, we pay them from beginning to end to develop the concept, to test its effectiveness, do focus groups. They do a tremendous amount of research, goes into determining what the final product will be that we see on our TV screens. And then some of the contract involves, you know, the media buys that they do, which none of which comes all that cheaply. You know, it may mean that we're going to be using the websites now and the web, which is becoming so prevalent, particularly if we're aiming our messages at a younger generation. We also have been doing a fair amount of social marketing at the theaters, in movie theaters. The television ads that we see are just a very small piece of what it is we do. We use bus interiors and bus shelters and exteriors as well, online, and of course there's the print media in various community newspapers and as well as the Herald and the Coast. And we make use of our radio stations too around the province. So we've had campaigns developed targeting young people, trying to demonstrate that smoking is not the norm, it's not the cool thing to do. And breastfeeding, as I said, the fruit and vegetable campaign, and various other campaigns. The Yellow Flag campaign, I should say, is the campaign that's related to the abuse of alcohol and the risk that's associated with alcohol. So Extreme Communications, I know because I've had an opportunity to meet with them on one of the campaigns that they're designing. They're an extremely cheeky and very creative group of people. And this is often reflected in their approach. The Trampoline Creative Inc., I can't explicitly say which campaigns they've been involved on and what that breaks down to. But I'm advised that they are the folks who do the Yellow Flag commercials around the alcohol, the risky behavior associated with alcohol, and You Are Not Alone ads. So if we can get the honourable member additional information on that, we certainly will. Extreme have been doing the breastfeeding and the tobacco advertisements.
The Honourable, the member for Richmond.
No, and I certainly appreciate getting that information, because while there's no question those are worthwhile campaigns, that's a significant amount of money. $480,000 for Extreme Communication, Trampoline Creative, $302,000. You know, we're talking major dollars there, to say the least. I'm looking at a couple more here. I see J.H. Fletcher's courier delivery for $58,000. I'm wondering, what did we get delivered for $58,000?
The Honourable the Minister of Health Promotion and Protection.
It's a courier service that we use in the department. It's a service that delivers, regular correspondence, but also was the courier services for the vaccines.
The Honourable the Member for Richmond.
Would the minister be able to provide a breakdown of that? Because $58,000 does appear to be quite a high figure for courier services. Maybe it isn't, but I'd be curious as to seeing a breakdown of that. I see just below that K2 Discovery Incorporated for $53,000. I'm wondering what that is.
The Honourable the Minister of Health Promotion and Protection.
Thank you very much. We certainly can get a more detailed breakdown of the courier delivery service. I can't tell the honourable member at this moment what K2 Discovery Inc. is, but we will get you that information.
The Honourable the Member for Richmond.
Thank you, Madam Minister. And, when I'm looking at the extreme communication, 479,000, trampoline, 302,000, and the minister's indicated that I believe that includes the media buys in those prices. If that being the case, when I look over on the page 148 and I look at Communications Nova Scotia, which I would assume that's where the media buys were being done, Communications Nova Scotia adds up to about $1.8 million of your budget. So you have 1.8 within the government service, and then I'm sure if I keep looking, I'm going to find more here, but needless to say, add those up, we're over $2 million now in communications, which again, maybe is reasonable, and maybe that's the what the price is of doing business now and communicating with Nova Scotians, but it certainly seems to be figures that jump out at me, and I'm thinking of how many recreational facilities could be using that money at $2 million that currently is going for such expenses. There's one here, and I'm seeing here, and the minister can probably touch on this, I'm assuming that Health Promotion Protection is buying a variety of different drugs from companies based on, I'm seeing Merck Frost, that's fairly obvious what that would be. I see Wyatt Pharmaceuticals for $2.5 million. I'm assuming those are drugs as well. I'm wondering this one on page 147, VANOC, V-A-N-O-C, $1.8 million. Is that pharmaceuticals as well? And again, who's getting the pharmaceuticals that Health Promotion Protection is purchasing?
The Honourable the Minister of Health Promotion and Protection.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So it is the case that we buy drugs, we buy vaccines from drug companies, I should say. So the Merck Frost, you're seeing the line item here for Merck Frost. This is for vaccine. VANOC, the VANOC line is the previous government's commitment to the Vancouver Olympics.
Honourable the Member for Richmond.
So it was $1.8 million commitment is what it was. Was that the total commitment for the province as far? So there's more. Okay, so the minister can probably elaborate on that. Look, let me make things a bit easier maybe for myself and for the minister. Minister, most of these expenditures were done prior to you becoming the minister. I'm curious, now that you've had the opportunity to review these expenditures, are there any that were undertaken prior to your arrival for which has caused you any level of concern?
That's a fair question, John.
The Honourable the Minister of Health Promotion and Protection.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd be happy to give the honourable member a breakdown of how we spent money allocated for the Olympics. And this, I think, was primarily committed to, as the honourable member said, this was a commitment that was signed in a memorandum of understanding prior to my becoming minister. And Mr. Chair, I believe in keeping our commitments that were outlined in a memorandum of understanding. The approved budget was $2.8 million. And in total, it turned out that we spent $2,568,500. And the breakdown is this. We spent $1.5 million contributing provinces and territories program. And that got us, as I understand, certain things like the torch coming through. I think that was, got us the torch coming through. And I know that there were a variety of other things that it got us. In addition to that, so that program, just let me say a little bit more about that program. It meant that there would be a Nova Scotia Day at the Olympics. Now, we still had to do more things to make that day happen, but, you know, it's kind of like a sponsorship. You subscribe, you purchase at a certain level, and it got you certain things. Every province participated in this contribution provinces and territory program, with the exception of New Brunswick. So that was $1.5 million. And I think, you know, when the torch was here in Metro that evening, Premier Campbell was here, and so all of that kind of stuff. The 4 Atlantic provinces went in together on a pavilion called Atlantic Canada House Pavilion, and our share of that pavilion was $500,000. And I did a resolution, I think, the other day. That pavilion was voted the 3rd best pavilion at the Olympics, and it had literally thousands and thousands of visitors, 3,000 visitors a day over a 14, 15-day period. There was also a cultural Olympiad that cost $200,000. And this gave an opportunity for Nova Scotian craftspeople and artisans to showcase their, you know, to showcase their craft and their products. There were $14,000 in ticket purchases. Nova Scotia Day cost $175,000, and that would be, you know, for the performers and all of this kind of thing. The torch relay, expenses associated with that, $20,000. A large part of these games were the involvement of Aboriginal people, and there were several Aboriginal people from Nova Scotia involved, including Aboriginal youth, and there was an Aboriginal youth gathering there, so $43,000 went toward that. Because business leaders from all over the world come to the Olympics, Nova Scotia Business Inc. Were involved with that end of the Olympics, and there was a business activation strategy. It cost $80,000. There was a production that was shown at the Olympics at Atlantic Canada House that cost $20,000 to produce, the music and film part of that. I'm not exactly sure what this next piece is, but there was $5,000 allocated for Place de Francophone, so there must have been, I don't know if it would have been some representation of the Acadian community, but there's a small piece. I could find out more about that if you would like. And there was Wabonsky showcase, $7,500. I don't know exactly what that is. And a red mitten, the Olympic red mittens, $4,000. So it comes to a total of $2,568, or $2,568,500 was our contribution. So again, Nova Scotia, like all of the other provinces and three territories, excluding New Brunswick, we signed on to the Contributing Provinces and Territories program. The cost of our participation in the agreement was $1.5 billion, and these funds went to support, I'm advised, Own the Podium, Vancouver 2010 Cultural Olympics, the Olympic as well as the Paralympic. I should have mentioned that. The Paralympic torch relays, the general staging of the games, the opportunity for our province to organize Nova Scotia Day, encourage Aboriginal participation in the games, access to participate in the Indigenous youth gathering, opportunities for marketing and promotion on an international stage, priority access to tickets, and accreditation for dignitaries. We partnered with 3 other Atlantic provinces and a COA to fund the Atlantic Canada House Olympic Pavilion. And as I said, this was turned out to be a great success with quite a few visitors through that pavilion. In the, you know, Mr. Chair, I don't mind telling the honourable member that we were a new government arriving when the planning for the Olympics and Nova Scotia's participation was happening, and our Premier and our Cabinet made a decision that the only person who would attend the Olympics on behalf of the province of Nova Scotia as an elected person in an official capacity would be the Premier. And other members of Cabinet, you know, felt that given the financial circumstances of the province, it would not be appropriate for us to, you know, attend on the public, at the expense of the public purse, and that did not occur. And I think that was the right decision to take, Mr. Chair. But at the same time, I think it was also very important for our Premier to be there. We all, I think, watched the Olympics. I have a friend who is just about the furthest thing that you could ever imagine as anybody who would ever go near a sport of any kind, who was glued to the television set for 2 weeks, and she said she couldn't believe how much, first of all, she doesn't watch TV, first how much television she watched, B, how much sports she watched on television, and C, how much she loved the events, and she was just captivated. And I think her, you know, her experience, I think, was the experience of Canadians all across this country. We watched the Olympics. They were our games, even though they were on the other side of the country. We took great pride in our athletes. What a superb group of young women and men, and you know, they made us very proud, and we all, I think, felt very good. So it is the case that our Premier was at the Olympics. Thank you. We're ready.
Time allotted for debate in Committee on Supply has now expired. The Chair recognizes the Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, I wish you'd now rise and report progress.
Is it agreed?
Agreed.
Motion is carried. The Committee on Supply reports.
Made progress and begs leave to sit again. Another day.
The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That closes the business of the government for today, and we will ask to rise and meet from the hours of 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Monday, and after after daily routine, we will go into her Committee on Supply. If time permits, we may do bills 13, 16, 18, 19, 22, 23, 24, 29. Ask we now rise and have a great, safe weekend, Speaker.
The motion before the House is that we now rise and meet again on Monday between the hours of 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. Is the House ready for the question? All in favour? Aye. Motion is carried. We now stand adjourned until Monday.